Saudi Arabia is the largest market in the Arab world. As you see, it has 80% of the total Arabian Peninsula, and the population is 30 million. And believe me, 70% of those are under the age of 30. So you see the challenges that the government is facing, and also on the other hand, the opportunities for the private sector. So it is both ways. We can see it in both ways. There is a lot of improvement going on, or reforms in the education sector. And although there is a fall in the oil prices, this did not affect the economy. The economy of Saudi Arabia is still in very good shape. And this was seen in the expenditure, in the budget that was released last month. As you see here, the budget is 152.7 billion. Okay? The revenues is 93.45. So there is a deficit, but this will not stop the government from the reform, and especially education, healthcare. That's the priority for the Saudi government. We can see also that the oil production is 9.7, and it had been increased, so no matter of the fall. We have the National Transformation Program, which has been initiated, and this will be a roadmap to the social economic development of Saudi Arabia. So there is a lot to be seen. Don't worry about the oil prices. The government is looking into diversification. It is looking into privatization. So there is a space for every businessman to come over to Saudi Arabia. So education, that's why you are all here, yeah? There are few changes that has taken place recently in the education sector, and I'm going to mention some of them, but in the next slide. As we see, Saudi Arabia is the largest and most populated country in the GCC. So if you are serving Saudi Arabia, you will not be serving only 30 million, but 60 million, all GCC, and 300 million, all the Arab worlds. It is the highest expenditure on education. For the last 10 years or 5 years, Saudi Arabia was getting 25% of the total budget of education. They were building almost 2 to 3 schools per day to meet the needs of the growing population. So we see that, and this year, it has also 23%. So don't worry about the oil prices. We are still there. It's 25 of the GCC students are based in Saudi. And as I said, 70% are under the age of 30. We have unemployment rate, which the government is trying to address. So we have 1.9 people that needs to go to the work. We have new minister that is, his vision is to see teacher training. That is very, very important. And the other thing is also to see collaboration with other ministries. So he will be working with the Ministry of Transport, he will be working with the Ministry of Aviation, so to bridge the gap that is happening at the moment between the outcome of the education sector and the workforce. They have been upgrading schools, huge investments in human development. A number of organizations have been established for human development, and we will speak about those in the next slides. What else do we have? Merging of the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Higher Education. So this is going to bridge the gap between the two ministries, and there will be more implementation, coordination, working on policies and programs. Institutes and colleges have went up by 74%, so imagine that. Imagine the huge rising rate, increasing rate. Total of graduates rose from 9144 to 105. There are almost 270 plus students studying on scholarship program. So when this come back, there is a challenge for the government to see them into their jobs. And that's what the government is trying to address at the moment, and is taking it very, very serious. So, key organizations in the sector. We have Tatweer. Tatweer has been established to develop the program of King Abdulla Scholarship, King Abdulla Development Program, and also to implement all the education projects. And we have here Engineer Isam from Tatweer. He will say something about Tatweer at the end. So if you need anything from Tatweer, we have Engineer Isam here, Senior Consultant. They're also working on English language. They're working on STAMP, and they have incorporated the curriculum into the curriculum to accommodate STAMP and PEACE and TIMSS, which is Technology, International Mathematics Studies. Technical vocational training is also very high, is also a priority for the government. The vision is to have 40% of the total population to go into technical vocational training, and at the moment there's only 10%. So there was a new initiative that was initiated called College of Excellency, and they are in charge of the PPP program, which is public-private partnership. And they are working with international providers to provide the standard that is needed for the technical vocational training, the quality. We have College of Excellency, and they work also very closely with TVTC, the Human Resource Development Fund, well, I call it the bank, and the Ministry of Labor. So who are the other main players? We have the Public Education Evaluation Commission. This is also a new organization that has been established to evaluate the quality of education and to have the right skills at every stage for the students to have. And they are also represented at BAT, and their stand is C393, I think. Yeah, no, I'm sure, not I think. We have the Ministry of Labor, and the Ministry of Labor has been initiated or establishing a number of organizations to work with the development of the young force. We have an organization called RUB, Tekamol, Irada. These are all working on e-learning and also training short courses to bridge the gap between the need of the private sector and the workforce. Last but not least, we have the Saudi skills standards, and they are there to look at the quality that will be given to TVTC colleges. And I see people here that are already working with with SSS, we call it. We have City and Guilds. I think they know more about SSS than I do. Yeah? You agree with me, Bill? Yeah. So we see from this that a lot has been going in Saudi Arabia to raise the profile, to raise the quality, to increase the education for the growing population.
I'm going to speak to you today about Saudi Arabian education. Well, Saudi Arabia, I'll be speaking to you about the Saudi Arabian background of Saudi Arabia as a government, private schools in Saudi Arabia, and the education of Al-Hussan group of companies. Saudi Arabia has started looking at the education in 1924. And actually, it's only in the 50s where it started the private education in real. And if you see the picture here, this is a class 50, 60 years ago. This is one of the pictures of King Faisal, who started the first schools, private schools in Saudi Arabia. And this is the opening of that school there. If we go back to the private education in Saudi Arabia, total number of schools in Saudi Arabia up to now is approximately, for the boys, is something like 1,500 schools, and for the girls is about 2,400 schools. The number of students in Saudi Arabia is about 660 plus students. Private education at the moment in Saudi Arabia is a very small percentage to the government schools. It is less than 13%. Why it is less than 13%? Because the government of Saudi Arabia is spending so much money on the government education. And the government education is very good in Saudi Arabia. And nowadays, because of the oil has gone down a little, and the budget is going down, so now they are looking at giving the private education more support to become more than 13% and reach to 25% in 2020. These figures shows you how much Saudi Arabia spends on private education only. Saudi Arabia has spent something in pound is 220 billion pound in the last 16 years only. And this is big figures. And I hope your machines will not go bad because of these big figures here again. I go now to the private education of Al-Hussan. Al-Hussan school started in 1956. It's almost 60 years from now. It is one of the oldest education institutions in Saudi Arabia. The founder of Al-Hussan believes in one thing, that if you teach a woman, that means you taught a house, and then you taught a city and a country. And therefore, when he started the education in private girls' side, he started with a girls' school. And after that, the boys' school started. This is one of our schools in Riyadh. Al-Hussan consists of 19 schools in Saudi Arabia. 50% is international, and almost 50% is Arabic medium schools. And we have 2 training centers. The training centers basically working with huge companies like Aramco, Sabic, Siku, petrochemical industries. We train their employees, and we see that these are new employees of Saudi Arabia, Saudi companies, and we train them English language, mathematics, and safety. These schools are the Arabic schools. Basically, they are English as a second language. Everything is taught in Arabic, and the English as a second language is about 5 subjects per week, per week, yes. And if you go back here, this is our international schools. We have about 7 international schools in the Eastern Province and Riyadh. And this is one of the accreditation organizations that Al-Hussan has during the past years. One of our schools is an IB school, and CIS, the Council of International Schools, is one of the accreditation, and Advanced Ed. And of course, we have Cambridge here. And the strength of Al-Hussan is a 60 years old experience. Employs over 2,000 employees. We have almost 15,000 students, and ranked in one of the biggest and oldest schools in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, if you see on the map of the world, Saudi Arabia is here. This is Saudi Arabia, and this is the Eastern Province where Al-Hussan is, basically. Am I fast or this is slow? Yeah. The branches of Al-Hussan is in Khobar, Dammam, Jubail, Riyadh, and we are also going very soon. We are going to Dubai and Egypt also. This is just example of schools in Saudi Arabia. Modern buildings, modern facilities. Very quick an idea about what we have in Saudi Arabia.